You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. A celebration of sounds, songs, and stories is set to take place as the Agassiz Chamber Music Festival returns from June 2nd through 8th. More than a dozen events featuring some of the most brilliant contemporary musicians performing today explore shared and complex histories. To hear more, Artistic Director Paul Marleyn has returned to the Classic 107 airwaves. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Simon. Great to be here.
Great to have you here in the studio, in person. The past few years we've done these overviews. It's been over Zoom, so it's wonderful to welcome you back.
Yeah, it's so good to be able to see real people.
Ain't that the truth? First off, let me congratulate you on 25 years of Agassiz. How does that feel, a 25th birthday?
Yeah, well, it is extraordinary. I guess next year is our 25th anniversary, and this year is our 25th year.
Yeah.
Yes, when we started in 2000, who would know? And it's wonderful now to be celebrating the 25th, and also to have an endowment fund set up, and the festival really well established. It's great to see.
What do you think has kept it going for so long?
What's kept it going? Well, I guess, I mean, in the end, I think love of music is what sustains the arts, I think, and sustains boards and arts organizations and artistic directors. I think it's that.
Well, we are so appreciative of this week-long celebration of chamber music. A big one this year. Like I said, more than a dozen performances that are happening. And a theme in the sounds in the key of spring. Can you tell us more about that? Sounds in the key of spring? How does that carry us through this particular year?
Well, I'm looking at the poster here, and our Andrea Spears, our marketing person, has done such a fantastic job. The poster is absolutely gorgeous.
It really is. It's like a floral explosion.
Flowers.
Yeah,
it's true. Well, I guess we always associate Agassiz with spring because, of course, it comes that time of year, and it's such a period of kind of regrowth, and the city is looking gorgeously green, and all the leaves are out. So, and that's the time of year, personally, when I come here, of course, every year, and it's just such a beautiful time of year. So I think it's that association that inspired us.
And it is going to be a beautiful celebration of spring and sound and connection. And it all begins this Sunday, June 2nd, in a centuries-spanning concert, right? Can you tell us more about that?
That's right. So, yeah, spanning 4 centuries. So we start the festival with some Henry Purcell, English composer. And he wrote a lot of, scores of fantasias for groups of Baroque instruments, viols, tenor viols, and treble viols. Of course, these days we don't play on those old ancient instruments, so we're playing actually a chaconne, arranged by Benjamin Britten, the wonderful British composer, for string quartet. So it's slightly updated, but it's kind of neo-medieval music. So that's a beautiful start. And then we're finishing the other end of the span of 4 centuries with the piano quintet by Amy Beach.
Wonderful writer.
Yeah, it's a fantastic piano quintet. It's these days where diversity is key, key to festivals, and we've looked at some composers who are less well known, and Amy Beach is somebody who we've been really interested to get to know her works, like the Romance for Violin and Piano, and the piano quintet is a fabulous work, richly romantic, very passionate piece. So that's been a great discovery.
This first concert, also the first opportunity to hear one of the featured artists this year, the Swiss piano trio Rolling Through Town. We're going to get to them in just a little bit, but we're sort of going to glaze over things here because each of these concerts we'll dive into in full as they kind of arrive. Looking ahead to Monday, Beethoven's music highlighted, paired alongside a couple of new Canadian works. This sort of builds on a recent Groundswell concert you were a part of, isn't it, Paul?
That's true, yes. Yeah, I I was in town for a concert on the 22nd of May with Groundswell, which was really fun because I played in Groundswell many times when I was living in Winnipeg. And it was really nice to come back and play for their audience and also play some new music. So that was wonderful to do. So this concert also, as you mentioned, where we're playing a work by Michael Matthews and a work by Karen Sunebacker. Karen Sunebacker, of course, originally from Winnipeg, and Michael Matthews too. They're both living in different climes now, but very much hailing from Winnipeg.
And speaking of people hailing from Winnipeg, on Tuesday, a couple of familiar names, younger talents who've really established themselves beyond the province's borders. A concert titled 92 Strings. And doing the math here, Paul, I think that means we're going to see a violinist and a pianist. Is that right?
You got it.
You've passed the math test.
Yeah.
Tell us about who's returning to town.
Well, Gregory Lewis is one of the Canada Council Instrument Bank artists, a violinist, wonderful violinist, who actually has a residency at Yale University now. And he studied with an old friend of mine, Oleg Pokanovsky, at the University of Manitoba. He's a fabulous player with very impressive career now. So it's wonderful to be able to bring him back and to partner with Canada Council in that way. And he'll be playing with a good friend of his, Paul Williamson, who, of course, also studied at the University of Manitoba with David Morose. So they're, as I mentioned, they're good friends, and they're really excited to play together in that recital and many other pieces in the festival.
And it'll be so wonderful to hear them back in Winnipeg performing. Two regulars on the Classic 107 airwaves, two, I know, active participants in Agassiz over the years. Paul seemingly plays with everyone, Paul Williamson, that is.
Yeah.
And just a phenomenal player. So yes, to have him and Gregory performing alongside one another should be a wonderful evening on Tuesday. And as if that wasn't enough, the concerts continue Tuesday, another sort of U of M connection with the Juno Award-winning Will Bonas and his trio performing a show for all the Nighthawks out there, right?
That's right. Yeah, Will and his trio played in the festival last year, and that was a new development for the festival, moving into the jazz idiom. It was a wonderful concert, so we wanted to invite him back. And Carly Epp, the Winnipeg-based vocalist, is going to be part of that concert. And there's a nice connection between Greg and Paul's recital 92 Strings earlier in the evening, because they're playing Maurice Ravel's Jazz Sonata. So there's a movement in the blues.
Yeah.
And actually, the whole piece is inspired by the jazz idiom. So it connects really nicely with the jazz concert at 9:00 that evening.
Exactly. Just a solid bit of programming. And then looking ahead to Wednesday, emerging artists featuring the talented trumpeter and cornetist Sam Ferguson. He's been on Classic 107 before.
Nice.
Great young player he is, performing at noon. And then an evening performance by the aforementioned Swiss piano trio. It's a real coup having them here, isn't it? They're a big deal.
Yeah, they're a fantastic group. And I've been really happy to get to know them a little bit. It's the first time, I'm not certain, it may be their first time in Canada, but it's definitely their first time in Winnipeg and in Manitoba. So I'm really excited that we can welcome them. And one of the kind of central tenets of the Agassiz Festival is to put together Winnipeg artists and visiting international artists together in groups, and we're doing that very much. So we're playing the Paul Juon piano sextet, which is a gorgeous, well, that word came up again, a very rich textured work for strings and piano. Not a well-known piece at all, and that's something we really like to do is discover wonderful pieces of music that are less known. So Paul Juon, Swiss composer who studied in Moscow. So his style is more, I'd say, more Russian than Swiss, to be honest. So that'll be really terrific. And we're playing a new work, also written in 2022, the Dubonyon, difficult word to pronounce, Rundtanz or round dance, for the same combination. So that'll be a terrific concert with the Swiss piano trio and friends.
and also Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and Stravinsky on the program. So yeah, just quite the evening of music. We're going to hear a little bit of their playing now, Paul. Something not on the program. This from their recording of the Eduard Franck piano trios. This is the third movement scherzo from the trio in E. The Swiss Piano Trio performing the scherzo, the third movement, to the trio in E major. That music by Eduard Franck. You're listening to Morning Light. My name is Simon Rosnack, and in this hour, we've welcomed Agassiz Chamber Music Festival director Paul Marleyn, giving us a little bit of an overview. 7 days of music upcoming, beginning this Sunday, June 2nd. Paul, we just heard the wonderful playing of the Swiss Piano Trio, who are going to be here, their provincial debut. Wonderful to welcome such outstanding talent. And you mentioned part of the Agassiz mandate is not only welcoming international players, but also giving local players the opportunity to perform with them, as well as being showcased themselves. How many players in total are participating in Agassiz this year?
Well, it's 48. I've been doing the math.
Sorry,
recently.
48 players?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a large number, which is, it's our 25th festival. So it's nice to see the festival becoming more well-established, and hopefully further developing its reputation nationally and internationally. And I think that helps in drawing groups like the Swiss Piano Trio.
Speaking of a draw, we're just past the midway point of this sort of run as we're walking through. And let's pick things up on Thursday, June 6th, in a show that features some pretty great players. And it's a show that features vibraphones, flower pots, trumpets, brass, and clarinets. What's going on in this Agassiz showcase, I have to ask?
Well, it actually, it connects with the final performance in the festival finale, Sounding Thunder, the song of Francis Pegama-Garbo. We're very excited and honored to be able to bring Sounding Thunder to Winnipeg from Toronto. And Sounding Thunder, this is an Indigenous work, very powerful work. And part of that group of musicians from Toronto, a group of 12 musicians, includes some of the leading names in Canada. So Joel Corrington, who I believe is one of the greatest living bass players, a truly extraordinary artist, wonderful guy, and Guy Few, Beverly Johnson, Jim Campbell, who's been to the festival many times. But certainly for Guy, Beverly, and Joel, they haven't been to the festival. I've been wanting to get them to the festival for many years. So it's really a bit of an embarrassment of riches to find them in town, and they're in town for the full festival for Sounding Thunder. So when I knew that, I immediately thought, well, what else can we get them to do? So the idea of a showcase where I could simply ask them, what would you like to play? Is there a 10-minute piece you'd like to play, a 15-minute piece? So we've simply gone with that. So it's really a kind of show concert. And I think it'll be really incredible. I wouldn't want to miss that.
Yeah, you put those artists in a room, magic is going to happen.
Yeah, I think so.
Good on you for jumping on the opportunity. And we're certainly going to be talking more about Sounding Thunder. But let's continue to work chronologically here. So that's on Thursday, the Agassiz Showcase. And then on Friday, another sort of embarrassment of riches with not one, not two, but 3 musical events going on. Beginning at 1 p.m. with the Rudersdal Chamber Players, another international group, right?
Yeah, they've been reviewed very, very warmly by the Gramophone magazine recently. It's a wonderful group from Copenhagen in Denmark. The cellist has been to Winnipeg a couple of times. He's an old friend of mine since teenage years. He's a cellist, Jon Erde, fantastic guy. He's also a conductor and conjurer, actually. He did a magic show one time.
No way.
Yeah, actually in a Groundswell concert.
Oh, wow.
Many years ago, which was really fantastic. So Jon is coming with his group, the Rudersdal Chamber Players. And it's a really interesting group, and they have a very strong commitment to new music. So they're playing new music and unusual music. So they're playing the piano trio by Amanda Meyer, who is sometimes described as the Swedish celebrity. So a little bit like Amy Beach, this is a woman composer who was an incredible composer, coming at a time where it was not really possible to be an incredible woman composer. It was just society couldn't deal with that concept yet. So now we can discover the quality of her composition, of her music, and it's such a surprise for all of us. It just begs the question: why wasn't this music celebrated in her time? It was to a certain extent, and the composers who went to her concerts, Brahms, Schumann, Liszt, Mendelssohn, it was just incredible, the people who admired her music. So it's really nice to be able to present her music in the festival.
Very nice indeed. And so that's at 1. Then there is a cafe concert at 6 with Gregory Lewis. And then the cellos sing praises to Winnipeg as part of the City of Song 150 initiative. Can you tell us more about that show, Paul?
Sure. Well, this is, of course, part of the celebrations of Winnipeg's 150th birthday year. And we were asked to, if there was an idea that might be interesting for us to be part of those celebrations. So, of course, my cello-infused brain came up with the concept of pairing voice and cello together, because the cello is perhaps the most vocal melodic of instruments. So Ellen Weiser, who is a University of Manitoba grad, is coming back to town from Montreal, and we're going to be jamming with her. So it'll be 7 cellos, a bass, Joe Quarrington, and Ellen playing some Villa-Lobos and all sorts of other crazy stuff, some Scott Joplin, and actually an incredible piece that Jon Erder is going to play called Duet for Solo Cello by Andy Pape. Andy Pape is a really interesting Danish composer, and this is a 20-minute piece, and there's actually not that much playing in it. There's a lot of acting and kind of singing, talking. It's off the wall, this piece.
Any conjuring, perhaps?
No conjuring, but
right.
I wouldn't want to miss this. I've seen him do it. He does it fantastically. It's very funny.
A duet for solo cello? I've got that right?
Well, that's of course ambiguous, because it's him singing and playing with him.
Oh, wonderful. What a cool show. And again, this sort of celebration of the City of Song, the initiative 150 years, the Winnipeg sesquicentennial. And then that takes us right through to Saturday. We've gone so quickly through the week-long showcase here, Paul. Begins at 1 o'clock with Skittles and Kitchens.
Yeah.
That's just such a great title, I have to say.
Well, we're playing the Kegelstadt Trio by Mozart, which apparently was composed while playing Skittles. And then La Revue de Cuisine, the kitchen review by Martineau, is a bit of a crazy opera.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Kind of musical opera. And it's a story of kitchen utensils coming to life and falling in love with each other and fighting, and it's duels. It's absolutely hilarious. So Andrea Ratuski is going to be narrating that. And the music, the way the music and the narration works is fabulous.
This also serves as a good segue to mention Andrea Ratuski hosting pre-concert chats before all, if not most, of the concerts.
Yeah.
Does such a marvelous job. She brings such insight and warmth and humor. So yes, always a good idea to get there early for any of these Agassiz Festival performances, right?
Yeah, terrific. She does an incredible job. She makes me sound like I've thought everything through beautifully as an artistic director, which isn't always the case. So she does wonderful work.
That she most certainly does. But you do as well, Paul, I have to say. So this takes us right through to the festival finale, and we've sort of alluded to this already. Sounding Thunder, can you tell us more about this multimedia showcase? Yes.
Well, Francis Pegamagabo was an indigenous sharpshooter in the First World War, and he's very much an honored war hero, and a lot has been written about him, novels, poetry. There've been movies about him, and the concept of writing a kind of opera, on stage opera, about his life, celebrating his contribution both as a sharpshooter and later as an indigenous politician, I think is really a wonderful way of making a connection with the truth and reconciliation movement. I think that's really important, making connections perhaps between settler cultures, the settler culture we have, and indigenous cultures, and just building partnerships in the arts. So that somehow we've wanted in the festival to build connections and include authentic indigenous music and art in the festival, and this was such a wonderful opportunity to be able to do that. And that aside, it's an incredible piece. It's been very, very successful playing in other festivals, Festival of the Sound, and in
Stratford, I think, did it?
Yeah, Stratford
Summer
and,
Music,
and Chamber Fest in Ottawa. We are actually the first performance that's taken place outside of Ontario. So the Sounding Thunder is wanting to break out of Ontario, and that's why I think they were very excited to come here, and we're delighted that we managed to secure some Canada Council funding for that to happen. So it's a big venture, very exciting for us to present a group like this, and I think it'll be an incredible evening. So I mean that it's a multimedia event. It'll be in Jubilee Place. Concert hall, and in fact, that's the Sounding Thunder as our closing night is the performance that's featured in the festival. Actually, we also are having 2 schools concerts on June 5th, which hundreds, maybe even more than 1,000 school kids are going to come along. We also have a community concert earlier in the festival for Indigenous veterans. So
on the Tuesday night.
There's actually kind of 2 festivals going on at the same time. But it's a very, very moving piece. So I'm so looking forward to that.
I think as many of us are, like you say, a moving piece, an important piece, and also an informative one. So plenty of opportunity and community involvement as well. Like you say, on that Tuesday evening, a community performance for Indigenous veterans, their families and community. And then a couple of school performances on the Wednesday. And then, a festival finale Saturday. What a week of music it will be, Paul. And let me say, if you're thinking to yourself, boy, oh boy, I'd love to be part of the Agassiz Festival. Well, to join all of this and more, head to agassizfestival.com. There are festival passes that are available, full access to all of the performances. Of course, there are also individual tickets available. Agassiz Festival, AGASSIZ, festival.com is the place to go. Paul, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Great to see you, Simon.
Great seeing you too.